Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dan Ball, and welcome to another episode of the Wellness Academy podcast. On my show, here at the Wellness Academy, it is my job to distill all things wellness and attempt to break down from all our different coaches, experts, and guests their wisdom and knowledge so you can apply it to your own life. Our guest today is Ryan Carter. Ryan is a personal trainer, a lifestyle medicine therapist, an all-round coach, mentor, and leader, and he's due to complete his registered nutritional therapist degree, probably by now, actually, considering when I recorded this podcast, and now that it's edited and ready to go out. So I had a fantastic time talking to Ryan. Really intelligent guy, humble guy, full of knowledge, full of thoughts, wisdom, and I've already been including some of his principles that he talks to me about in my own life and feeling the positive benefits. So I can't wait for you guys to hear this one. And as always, please like, share and subscribe, whether it be on YouTube, Apple. Hit me up at _real Danny Ball on Instagram. Tag me in all of your favorite posts or even your least favorite posts. And I will see you guys on the next one. Please enjoy. Ryan Carter, welcome to the Wellness Academy podcast. Thank you very much for taking the time out to come on the show and speak with me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
As we were saying, just before we came on camera, on record, I seem to have begun to inhabit a circle of friends and people that I now know that you knew well before I did. And I completed Tom Merrick's edit over the last couple of weeks or so. The Bodyweight Warriors podcast will be out over the next couple of weeks, which I'm super excited about because he was a very cool guy. And Tom was who recommended me to speak to you.
He's a good man. He's got good taste in people.
Definitely. So before we kind of crack on into some of the things that I wanted to get the opportunity to speak to you about today, I figured already I'd assumed we could just get you to give a little bit of a bio. And in the course of our brief conversation before coming on record, you actually mentioned a couple of things which I didn't know about, which I think are interesting. So I was going to ask you to give us an idea of who you are, what you do, how you got there. And then it sounds like you've been through some stuff yourself in terms of food and I guess mental health and so on. So is that okay to give us an idea about that as well?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so obviously, like you know, my name's Ryan Carter. I currently live in West London. I'm a personal trainer, health coach. I'm in my final stretch of becoming a certified nutritional therapist, which I've been doing for the course has been around about coming up to 4 years now. So I can't wait to finish that. Amongst all that learning, devoured many books, been to many lectures, attended so many seminars, courses online, traveled around the world, been mentored by some amazing coaches and nutritionists as well, and just acquired an amazing repertoire of knowledge and wisdom to empower people, to then empower people and take them on board and to coach them in sort of like a mentor program to enrich their lives. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I got into the whole space of health and understanding more from my own personal journey. Well, my own personal issues, like with many in the industry, they all have usually some triggering moment which sparks their fire to dig deeper into like the root causes when they don't get an answer from the standard medical care, which is great in one way for disease, but it's very poor in identifying the root causes, prevention, and longevity, not longevity, but longevity, increasing health span, not lifespan. So the issues arise from there was a few things. I left home from quite a traumatic event, So I got kicked out of my house. I started living by myself. And then I was with a girlfriend at the time, and she moved away from me. And then it ended up me wanting to exercise, and I got in the habit of just training in the morning, fasted, trying to burn calories and lose a bit of weight. And that came up to sort of like an eating disorder when I was fixated on the scale and the weight, which essentially brought me to a weight of 55 kilos.
And how old are you, Ryan?
I'm 33 now, and this was probably around about 20. I think I was about 24 years old, 23 years old, probably.
How tall are you?
I'm just under 179.
Okay, so you're not far. Yeah, so I'm 188 and I'm 6'2". So you're ballpark 6 feet. So just to give context, that 55 kilos for people our height is extremely light.
Yeah, it's like I was a twig. So I was reaching breaking point, and then I just basically broke down with my girlfriend's family, ironically, not my family, and sort of had an epiphany. Then I started going to a gym, and I met this personal trainer who I thought was amazing, and who I was watching the way he was talking to his clients and his energy, and I struck up a conversation between him, and he sort of took me under his wing. I started training with him, and he was Brazilian and he was American in his upbringing, so he understood the paleo diet and sort of did that bulletproof, and that was it basically. He lit my passion for food, wanting to cook, and sort of opened my eye up to like paleo and understanding food as medicine as such. And then he also brought my strength up and my weight up, and that was great for probably like a year and a half. In that time, I was also working for my dad in his antique business. And
what was your coach's name, by the way?
His name was Fernando, but Fernando, yeah, a typical Brazilian name, and he moved back to Brazil, unfortunately. But okay. I'm still in contact with him. But Fernando was amazing. Like he literally changed my life. And in that time, I was also working my dad's antique shop.
Okay.
And I was also going bodybuilding, hypertrophy, eating loads of protein, and that also comes with tuna. A lot of eating a lot of bluefin tuna, and I got into eating sushi, sashimi, doing that for myself. So I was pounding away at probably like 1 kilo, maybe 2 kilos of tuna per week, just smashing it. Not having a clue about issues with eating too much tuna with the mercury. And then, like I said previously, I was working for my dad's shop, antique business, and he had a basement, which is a pretty old shop, and it's very moldy. And then I started having issues in my health. I couldn't pinpoint what the thing was. Food really wasn't working. I kept on getting food sensitivities, brain fog, just everything. And that was my realization that it's not all about food. There's other factors outside food which are bigger stress and toll on your body. And food alone for me is not medicine, although it's very important with epigenetic signals into your DNA and nutrient cofactors and all these kind of things. And then it was epiphany that I had a mold issue.
Okay.
And a friend of a friend reached me out to a practitioner, and he sort of gave me some insight. I had a few consultations with him. And then I just jumped into the whole biotoxin, mold, mycotoxins, understanding it, the link between methyl mercury, parasites as well, because I was traveling as well in my 20s, and I probably picked up a parasite, worms, whatever it is, on a trip to Mauritius and to Zanzibar, and just understanding. Where am I going now? So yeah, it was a mold issue, a mercury issue, possibly some gut issues, and then massive, just basically I call it poor cellular health. So it's low redox potential from what I know now, and that's basically your cellular health is poor.
What does low redox?
So we're okay. So now we're talking about the electrical charge of the cell. So we're electrical beings.
Mm-hmm.
So we are actually negative in nature. But obviously we want a positive outlook. But we're negative, and we have redox. So reduction and oxidation.
Okay.
So those two work together. Essentially, during the day and in the summer, we're more in the oxidizing states. That's when reactions are happening. We're turning over. So it comes back to electrons and protons and neutrons, but electrons and protons, and we're oxidizing faster. In the nighttime and in the winter, we'll be reducing more, and that's when we're conserving energy. We're going to a different kind of state in our health, more autophagy, if you want to call it. And so basically my cellular health was poor, and it wasn't able to combat the mold, the mercury, which if it had good health cellular function, it would be able to remove these with no problem.
Okay.
So essentially having poor vitamin D status, not getting outdoors, sleep was poor, blue light exposure, all these kind of things, all these environmental factors were influencing my cellular health, and food alone was not enough to solve it.
Okay. So
FYI, your screen's gone blank, by the way.
Okay. Let's just say that Skype has its habits and moments. But worst case scenario, I'll be able to drag the audio out of it, so we'll be fine. Okay. So when you say that you have had a lot of outstanding coaches, you've had the opportunity to be mentored by some fantastic people. Outside of Fernando, do any names, any particular guys or girls come to mind as standing out for having had a positive impact on you?
In terms of my own personal development, no one famous that you'd know, but
no. Okay. What my question was going to be. So the names, whilst not necessarily relevant to my eventual question, of course, they are relevant. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm often curious as to what about coaches stands out in their ability to make a difference. So as I mentioned to you, my day job is to teach martial arts, and I have a particular habit, a particular character trait, which I feel works well for me in terms of teaching the kids karate classes that I teach 4 nights a week. But I'm not keen to rest on that laurel as such. So, for example, I say to you, what coaches stood out? My eventual question: what do you think made them stand out? What made them a quality coach? What made them have an impact on you? And I like finding that kind of thing out. I think I've asked it several people.
I think it's listening and really understanding and connecting with the person in front. Putting them arm around you, taking them under your wing, providing wisdom, not just telling them what to do, but showing them and explaining it.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding the whats and whys you're doing things. That's really important. Some people, they don't want to know that because they're too busy, but they're not the people who really care, in my opinion. The people who really care and want to know and are really, really signed up and invested in it. They're the people.
I can agree with that. I think the people, if I look back to my school days, every teacher that I connected with was one that was willing to take a moment to speak to you as a human,
Yeah.
Rather than, do you remember the classic, you would come in and you'd have a substitute teacher that would say, I've got work to do, you've got work to do, there's no need to talk. That versus I had a teacher my history teacher, year 9, I think, at school, so 14. I'll never forget, she used to always say, I don't mind you guys talking, but if there's important work to do, you'll be quiet. And if the noise she just talked to you as a human.
Yeah.
She'd talk to you personally, rather than trying to treat everyone the same. And that really connected with me. So that's one of the things I've tried to embody myself as an instructor, to approach everyone as an individual as such.
Yeah. And that goes back to sort of the health with doctors. Like, they just see you, well, I'm not saying they all do, but they see you as an object. They only have a limited amount of time. And yeah, it's the same thing with some teachers you just click with, and some doctors or healthcare practitioners you don't. Yeah, professionals you don't.
It's interesting you should say that. So I've talked about being in similar circles. So Sophie Medlin was, as we discussed, another person that it turns out that you didn't know, but she's a mutual friend of a mutual friend of ours. She put me in touch with a handful of people, and I've had some fantastic interviews over the last few weeks. A couple of those are due out again very soon. And incidentally, 2 of them are general practitioners, health professionals. And one of the things that endeared them to me in the conversation that I had with them both respectively was that they do genuinely seem to care. And one of them likes to ask the question of his patients when they come into his GP practice, what do you want to get out of today? Like, what do you want to get out of coming to see me today? And I thought, what a wonderful question to be asked when you first come in versus, what's the problem, or whatever the question might be that I've had in the past before. So it made me quite sad that they weren't my GPs. Do you know what I mean? They weren't down the road at my local practice. So one of the questions I did want to ask you coming into today, I now have an understanding there is a difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian. I'm not fully aware of what the difference is, but then you've given me another, at least from my uneducated point of view, perhaps, a nutritional therapist. So I'm assuming, of course, that's not the same as a nutritionist, and definitely not the same as a dietitian. What can you explain to me the difference, and particularly in your case, what a nutritional therapist looks to do?
Okay, well, first of all, they all want to help people, and they all do help people in some way. So that's very important. And they're not all that. It's not competition, like who's better than who. Nutritional therapists look at lifestyle medicine. They look at food. They look at the environment. They see the person as a whole. Nutritionists, same thing. They are a little bit more dietary focused, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a university degree. In that there's some issues in that as well, of who's funding the boards of these people with degrees as well. Dietitians, they're run by the government, so it's very government focused if you're thinking the Eat Well plate or the government recommendations of RDAs.
Mm-hmm.
And their ranges in tests or vitamin mineral ranges, essentially. So there's crossover, but dietitians are specifically, they can instruct you exactly what you can eat. Nutritional therapists, nutritionists are very more broad and less specific to what a dietitian will be recommending, but dietitians work more closely with doctors in that medical setting, in hospital.
Okay.
And same thing with nutritionists. You do get nutritionists working in hospitals. Nutritional therapists are sort of the people at the more or less at the back, a little bit less respected in the medical arena scene. But qualifications at the end of the day, they're very important, but it's down to the individual with the knowledge of that and wisdom that they acquire.
Agreed.
And how do they pass that on to the clients in front of them.
Agreed. I have a similar, so teaching martial arts full time, people like the perception of a governing body within the martial art that you're in. But I believe it to be similar in a sense that I tell people when they ring up and they ask about different martial arts, I say to them, it's not what martial art you taught, it's how you taught it.
Yeah.
My girlfriend has nothing to do with martial arts. If someone really wants kickboxing and she tries to teach you kickboxing, it doesn't matter if it's kickboxing you're being taught by someone that doesn't know it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're taught a different martial art by someone that cares and is a professional, you'll get a lot more out of it, even if it's not quite the martial art you wanted, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Lifestyle medicine is a term that I think people will probably have heard of by now. And I believe that lifestyle medicine is kind of where I try to focus my own personal health. You know, like not just what do I eat, but am I training? Am I outdoors with breathing in fresh air daily, or is it just the light from a window that I'm getting, etc., etc., etc. Do you believe that lifestyle medicine is the kind of thing that in the future will be broadly practiced rather than it seemingly, at least from my point of view, it seems a bit niche? You know, people talk about it and lots more people are talking about it and lots more people care about it, but I've never been to see the doctor and told them I've got a problem and them start to ask lifestyle medicine related questions. And I know that my mum has been seriously ill a couple of times over the last year or two. And I don't believe she's ever been asked lifestyle medicine questions, or certainly not been given specific instruction in terms of changing her lifestyle. Like, do you believe that'll be the kind of thing that starts being more broadly practiced? Like, will it be done everywhere?
I think more people are understanding it and hearing it, whether it be going mainstream. You're talking about pharmaceutical companies and the way doctors are taught and educated. So I don't think on that perspective, but there are some champions champion doctors, and in the UK and US. But the US is a bit different. But in the UK, who do promote it? Like number one would be Dr. Chatterjee. Yes. But for me, he's great, but he's still scratching at the surface on certain things. So, and in that context of when you go into the doctor's office, you're presenting issues. It's not looking at before that, even when you get there, about prevention or optimization. Mm-hmm. And there's a massive gap between when you're born, school, then you're on your own. There's no education whatsoever about how to live well. Nothing. Not even in school, to a degree. But like, there's nothing in school to tell you how to do things. And even things like just common decency, like respect and not walking out in the middle of the road like people just do in London, or just like being on your phone all the time. It's just like manners. But so there's a massive gap, and there needs to be some education in place, hopefully to young people, to take this on board, to understand the importance of circadian rhythms, sleep, daylight exposure. Where does your food come from? It doesn't come from a box. It doesn't come from the microwave, or these things which are quickly coming out, like removing from our evolutionary past, essentially. Like, nobody thinks about how food is created. Nobody thinks about why, like, how light is so important to the human body. What do we do when we're sleeping? Human connection, i.e. social interaction with people. Stress, understanding stress. Like, stress is not bad. We need stress. It's when distress is too much and we can't cope with the stress. And understanding about like nutrient density, like how to cook, like all these kind of things. It's really important. So there's a big missing gap, essentially, and that's what sort of nutritional therapists have got great potential to push forward our knowledge. I'm not saying all nutritional therapists may know what I know, but like push forward our knowledge about using food,
Mm-hmm.
having the ability to change your genetics. So this is called the field of epigenetics, how our environment influences our biochemistry inside our cell.
And when you say environment, so my understanding of epigenetics will probably be very limited. I say probably. No, it is very limited, particularly from a context of the only time I've really heard epigenetics discussed in any kind of context of depth is listening to Rhonda Patrick podcasts with Joe Rogan, which is quite funny to say that to people, considering I've heard that there are some that aren't always huge fans of Rhonda because of her reliance upon animal models, to quote, rather than human testing. But that being said, I understand it's the context of micronutrients. So what effect on the body? You talk about having good stress. I can't think of any examples of them right now. You probably can, but certain foods, plants that have natural defenses against predators so that they can survive, to be cut down by humans and ate, but so they can survive, and we ingest those stresses, and that gives a positive, is it hormetic response in the human body, I think?
Hormesis, hormetic,
but I'm assuming that that's just one branch of epigenetics. Like you said, food isn't the only thing that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So does environment and epigenetics now extend to sleep? Does it extend to, like you said, blue light exposure versus natural light exposure? Like, am I on the right track?
For sure. So, like, the definition of epigenetics is the study of changes in organism caused by modification of gene expression rather than alteration of the genetic code itself. So these factors take precedent over our DNA. These influence the way things are expressed. Therefore, if there's chaos, if there's confusion in these signaling, in the signaling, these are going to have a massive non-linear impact on every atom, molecule, cell of our body. And that's what causes inflammation, essentially.
Okay.
In terms of Rhonda Patrick, she's obviously very focused in nutrition alone. And specific, like the detailed specifics of nutrition, such as sulforaphane and fish oil, EPA, DHA, and she's obviously very well versed. But like most dietary focused things are looking at pro-oxidants, looking at stimulating a hormetic stress, like you're saying, and that would be dependent on the antioxidant response element of our cells. And we have to have the capabilities there to be able to handle that stress as well. So like there'll be people who will be like drinking liters, or maybe not liters, but a lot of broccoli sprout juice or eating loads of broccoli sprouts, but yet they don't have the cellular response or capability to mitigate that hormetic stress. So they actually build up more inflammation. So it's very narrow-minded, focusing on like one thing, and especially just food. Being as like medicine, like I told previously, I don't believe food like is essentially replicating medicine. It's the bigger picture. Like food is important to everything else, but just as much as sleep and sunlight and breathing fresh air and good quality water.
Okay.
Can I just? Sorry about that.
It's all right. So, the context of like epigenetics and there not being like a one size fits all type approach is, I think, something that you come across with people. It's almost like you notice that people who get the most attention nowadays on maybe Instagram or social media, or people that go kind of quote unquote viral, they can have what would essentially be a divisive opinion, or I think sometimes a seemingly concrete belief in one specific area, right? So as an example, I know that across social media, it's easy to see a lot of James Smith, the PT, and his discussions about, in terms of weight loss, it's literally as simple as calories in versus calories out. One of my previous guests, Sebastian Kane, is a massive advocate of the opposite of that it's not as simple as calories in versus calories out. One of my CrossFit coaches has talked about, for example, when you start to factor in sugar as a calorie, how therefore it can't be as simple as calories in versus calories out. I've been listening to an audiobook by a guy called Aubrey Marcus, the CEO of On It. He talks about it's not as simple as calories in versus calories out. And I feel like it's a less than sexy approach in terms of trying to promote yourself across wherever your area is, social media being a prevalent one, but understanding that you need to figure out what's best for you as a human. Like there isn't a one size fits all approach. Would you agree with that?
100%. But it's the context of what is a calorie?
Yeah.
But like, what is a calorie? What does it mean to you? What are you focusing on? What are your goals? Like, do you need to focus on calories? Do you know where calories enter biochemical equations? Because they don't. There's no such thing as a calorie in the human body.
This is what Aubrey Marcus said.
No,
which, I'll be honest, I don't fully understand. I don't even know if I'd be capable of understanding it if you had spent the rest of this podcast trying to explain it to me. But I do like the idea, and I agree with the understanding that if you focus on micronutrients and nutrient-dense foods and getting a broad range of colours in your diet, and like he likes to talk about picking from the, excuse my French, what the fuck is that section of the vegetable aisle or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? To provide your body with different things. I like that as a more wide range approach than just looking at how many calories are on the back of a nutrition information.
Yeah, it's a narrow, for me, it's, well, in my opinion, it's a narrow-minded way of looking at things. It's very weight loss focused.
Mm-hmm.
And that would mean that you'll be controlled by the rest of your life to a certain extent about calories, watching your calories spent, instead of A, enjoying life, B, looking at nutrient density, C, understanding how energy actually is metabolized, which is not on calories, it's actually on electrons. So that's numero uno. So I do get their point, and in terms of looking at weight loss, because food provides massive amounts of electrons. When you can control food, like humans are the only animal or mammal in the world who actually can control their food and think what they're going to eat and all those kind of factors. That's why we're humans, because we've got a massive prefrontal cortex and we can make these decisions. But I lost my train of thought. So understanding them from an electron perspective and how they actually equate to energy, and what fuel we actually use is actually ATP, or magnesium ATP, Mg ATP, and how our mitochondrion utilize the energy, and how the relationship with the mitochondria in a cell, and how water is involved in the whole process. So it's very narrow-minded, and obviously a lot of people focus on calories. So I can see like the popularity that he may have, and and all these people's effing and blinding and saying I'm right, these people are idiots. It's not my kind of like energy that I'd want to put out there or attract. But like, I'm sure these people are doing great things, and people may be getting results of losing weight. But the question would be like, how long? What's the impact long term?
I think what he capitalizes on in a massive way, which I can admire from afar now, with the idea that like trying to find a niche for this podcast and to make it, because I consistently had on quality guests, and you're already one of them, Ryan. 30 minutes into this recording, like, it's fantastic. Trying to get as many people to listen so they can benefit from that is probably my biggest challenge, not finding cool people to talk to, because I seem to be doing a good job of that. And he does a good job of getting people to listen to him, because I think of the online persona. Whether that's the real life one or not, I don't know. But yeah, so in terms
he's just calling out people, like, it's just making noise, like, and like it appears that you have to do that to gain popularity, to gain traction, to get these book deals, and to live that way of life, and then show off and put that on Instagram. Like, that's for me. That's not me. And you don't need to be controversial. You don't need to be narrow-minded. Like, like these. Like, I could easily call out people and just say, yeah, he's a knob end. But I don't know him, like, and then like obviously and that, like, whatever, but you don't need to do that. Like, yeah.
Well, if we use that as a segue in terms of you don't need to do that, obviously you talk about being, shall we say, specific in terms of an area. So like we talked about how Rhonda Patrick can be very specific. Like you said, like, you know, it's the detail of the detail that she goes into.
And so not everybody needs to listen to that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where there are issues. There's so much information out there. Yeah. People focusing on even talking about calories and the macronutrients and the timing of eating food and carb cycling, carb backloading, writing everything down, entering it in for MyFitnessPal, taking pictures of it and sending it to you. I don't know, like, it's very, very narrow-minded, and you're forgetting how humans actually do live or have lived for thousands of years before this. So that's very important to understand.
So what I was going to say was, we can call Instagram an area of perceived success. And if we were to focus on that particular area, you are not divisive or controversial or any of those things on your social media presence, yet seem to have because I mean, it's relative because, you know, I don't know how many followers The Rock has now, for example, 130, 150 million odd. You've got a decent following, though, on your Instagram for doing something what seems to be fairly simple, but is very successful. So could you touch on, for anybody that doesn't yet follow you on Instagram, what it is that you set out to do with the posts that you now put on regularly on your kind of Instagram tile, you know, what they're for, what you like, you know, what you like about them, what they do for people in your opinion, and so on and so forth. Because I really like them. I think they're fantastic.
Well, we said earlier, it's like Ready Steady Cook, which is a UK cooking program of like, these are the ingredients. Yeah. This is what you can do to them, like before and after. And just thinking of, ideally, they'll be seasonal. That's like one of the main factors I like to base my food choices on. But they're really quick and simple. And you don't have to put massive effort or cost into it as well. So it's very relatable. It's consistently good food. Like, there's no thing of cheating or anything like that. It's just good food, done well, quick, and that's it. And it's just very relatable and simple to follow. I do try to put like more of my opinion in terms of like lifestyle and stuff on there, but it's like, obviously, it's a bit harder to try and make posts as creative as the food ones, or as simple as the food ones. But yeah, I don't try to put like, I don't do advertising. I think I've done like one sponsored post or 3 sponsored posts in the whole time there, but I don't do like ads or anything like that. So just keep it really real. My stories is where I put all my learning and more insights into my philosophy and stuff like that on. But the main posts are really all about food.
So for people that aren't aware, on my phone, to have a quick look. So like, let's see if I pick out the 4 most recent. Okay, so your most recent one, which went on a couple of days ago, you've got, like you say, Ready Steady Cook, very much so. On the left, I think it's a couple of eggs, a sweet potato. I think that's cavallonero.
Correct.
And I'm guessing in the middle there is ginger. Ghee. Okay. And then on the right hand side of the picture, you've done before and after. You've got 360 calories, and you made sweet potato egg nests.
Yeah, just using a spiralizer.
The other one, you've got, I like this. On the left, you've called it rabbit food. On the right, you've called it sexy food. And you've taken essentially a carrot, some cucumber, and some greens. Added a few things, and like you say, on the right hand side, it does look far more sexier with just a little bit of extra effort. Third one on the left hand side, you've got snack versus an actual meal. So, and I'm going to ask you to kind of give your thoughts on these after I've given the people a bit of an insight. And then I really liked this last one. You've got four tiles within the one picture. So top left corner, 1, rabbit food and a plate with some greens on. Number 2, shrooms and added some mushrooms. Number 3, multivitamin. And to be honest, I'm not entirely certain as to what that is that you've added to the plate.
It's an egg.
And then
it's egg. It's eggs.
It's egg. I thought so. And the last bit, Parmigiano, so cheese. Give us your thoughts on. I mean, I like them for their simplicity. I have the dark mode on my Instagram, so I really like them for the way that they stand out, given the fact that they're very often brighter in backgrounds. But yeah, give us a bit of an idea as to what your intention is with them. You know, your goal with those posts.
To just give people insights into, just give people like things to think about. Like, okay, it's veganery. So like people might be eating like rabbits, i.e. they just think eating carrots, like a raw carrot and some greens is enough to fuel their bodies. Well, you don't have to. You can actually just jazz it up. Snack beats meal. I think that's just based on, okay, there's loads of people just eating nuts. They're great for you and all that kind of stuff. But like, you wouldn't find nuts just like sitting on Tesco shelves. You'd actually have to work hard to find nuts. So it's like handful of nuts, which are very they're very calorie dense, if you want to call it that. So very dense, nutrient dense, compared to an actual meal, which is basically the same or the equivalent of, which is very satisfying and filling and more broader in terms of nutrients and macronutrients as well. The stage one with the mushrooms and stuff, that's just basically to get an idea of how to build a plate. And what would be on my plate was like what I had basically to have for breakfast, essentially. And obviously there's not a piece of bread or granola in sight. It's just actual like real food.
Do you eat, so just a quick one, by the way, like, do you eat any bread?
I don't eat actually, like, I sometimes eat sourdough.
That's what I was just about to say. So I was gonna, do you eat bread was question 1. Question 2 was, if you do, like, because I'm right when I say there are certain breads that don't fit the original stigma of them just being a processed carb. So for example, sourdough, you're not shooting yourself in the foot to have sourdough bread the same way that you are if you go and buy a white loaf from Kingsmill. Do you know what I mean? Is that that's correct, right?
To a certain extent, but yeah, to a certain extent, yeah. One's really like pulverized and not really what bread was or is. It's just a human bread, basically, human made bread. Sourdough's more traditional in a way. It's made fermented, so it's got some breakdown products. It's a bit more wholesome. It's a different kind of text as well. So like, not everyone likes sourdough. Like, that's understandable. But like, I don't go crazy for it. Like, I might eat a piece of bread every 4 weeks. So back to what I eat. I eat basically very seasonal, and that would be replicating where I am and what's happening in my environment, because the environment creates the food. So obviously I'm in London, UK. There's not much heat. There's not much sun. So there's like there's no UV. So plants are not really thriving. There's no banana trees, mangoes. Like when I walk down the road, there might be some apples and pears and whatnot.
And there's no pavement.
There's no there's no like grapes. There's like, and these kind of things, it's like people don't really think about, but it's very important. Like, these are evolutionary signals made by the earth, created by light, and nobody's listening to it. They just expect to see bananas just sitting on the shelves 365 days of the year, and some shops which will be 24/7, and they can have disposable of these foods, which is not really the case in how humans evolved. And for me, that is one of the issues to the environment and the way things are changed and shaped by it.
Okay. Little bit of left.
Sorry, and the same can be said not just for carbs but for fat or for eating loads of protein as well. It's like a carnivore diet when it's just loads of protein. Like, okay, maybe once in a while that would be the case of eating loads of animal foods, but eating that constantly all the time is not right either. And the same thing with keto diet. Like, keto diet has many flaws. Like, you're not going to be finding coconut oil all the time or crap loads of butter and stuff like that. Like in the summer, like the keto diet is completely wrong. So it's like there's different times of the year depending where you are of sort of like the foods which would be predominant things going into you. And these are epigenetic signals which change your DNA alongside the environment signals which you get from being outdoors with the light, with the cold or heat. These things influence how things are expressed in your cell. And these change biochemistry pathways in your human body. So you don't need to start.
I'm writing this down. I like all of this. I'm making notes.
So like humans create humans are very, very smart, but yet we're smart enough to eat our own foods that we make. And these foods are very inflammatory, like processed oils, like using seed oils. And that's the issue with like all these canola oils. They're very, very high in PUFA.
In what?
PUFA, polyunsaturated fats.
Okay.
So these are very unstable when you cook at heat, just because they lose their electrons are not protected.
Yes. Become carcinogenic, right?
Essentially. So that their electrons are not very protected, and they enter our cell membranes, and this is where we get high amounts of peroxidation. And this is when we need high amounts of nutrients to mitigate the effects of that. So things like vitamin C, vitamin E, and glutathione, and also like selenium, iodine, like but in nature actually builds in these nutrients into the fats to protect it. So like when you talk about seafood PUFAs, not seed oil PUFAs, seafood PUFAs in oysters, shellfish, to a small extent fish as well, they're PUFA protected by predominantly iodine, which has a lot of electrons, and selenium as well. So they're less inflammatory than eating like PUFAs from, say, a processed oil, such as like vegetable oils, canola oil, sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, all these kind of things. So like,
how does this is one, I think probably one of the most difficult things, right? It's almost like I would need like someone to do, and you would need like an app, right? So you say a particular supermarket, I can go on MyFitnessPal and I can scan the barcode for pretty much whatever I might buy from, let's say, the local Tesco, and it'll provide me with certain information that I can use to make a decision on whether or not I eat it or not, if I'm that way inclined. So almost like
I wouldn't say you need to eat it. I'd say I'll give you the information and you find out the information if you want to eat it or not.
So here's my difficult bit. Already inside the 40-ish minutes we've been on this call, you've given me some new information that I didn't have before. And I felt like I had quite a lot of information. So to someone, let's say, that's listening, that anything you say has been brand new to them, you can understand how it can be quite overwhelming to go and do your shop, whether that be online or in person, and go, basically, as you walk around, am I even allowed to eat that? Am I even allowed to eat that? Am I even allowed to eat that? So whilst I agree with you that eating seasonally is a great start,
well, yeah, let's go back a sec. Like, let's look at low-hanging fruits. Like, just eating real unprocessed food is a great win. Like, that's number one. Drinking more water, that's number two. Like, making sure you're actually digesting your food appropriately, that's number three. These are even thinking about nutrient density, seasonality, all these kind of things and whatnot. These are basic physiological things that we need to consider.
When you say digesting your food properly, what do you mean by that?
Like not eating your food on your phone, watching TV, chewing adequately. So you're stimulating like increasing hormones, you're stimulating digestive juices, you're priming your body, you're getting your brain involved in digestion, not literally just like thinking of something else and just hoovering it in.
Okay.
So that, like, if you're not doing that, there's no consideration about what you should even be eating in the first place. That's very important.
Okay. One of the next things I was going to have asked you, which I think we've sort of touched on, but I shall ask the specific question anyway, I wanted to get your thoughts on the seeming obsession with the idea of a hack. Like, people love the idea of a food hack, a life hack, a diet hack. Like, we've obviously touched upon, like you just said, trying to focus more on like a low-hanging fruit, which I guess if you wanted to call that a hack. But like, how do you navigate that in terms of, let's say, for example, thinking about your future as a nutritional therapist? What's your thoughts on how to navigate, if you go on certain news apps on your phone, for example, that's all it comes up with, what the latest diet hack is, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, give you thoughts on that.
So hacks are very important. Like, it goes back to our human nature of being adaptable into our environment. And that's a hack, being adaptable, being able to survive, being able to reproduce. That's a hack. That's winning in life. So it's a very primordial way of thinking. And we have that built into our brain system to be achieving adaptability. So that's a hack. In terms of what you see on your feed, it's geared towards like a sort of exciting dopamine response pathway.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, these things are irrelevant to a certain extent, but a lot of things are hacks, biohacks, if you want to call it, like the biohacking community. They'll be doing some crazy shit, stuff that you don't even need to be doing. And they're probably the ones with the worst health of them all, because they're pushing their boundaries. They obviously got some health issues. They can't seem to resolve them. So they're pushing their bodies harder and trying to find ways and cures to sort things out, but they're forgetting the bigger picture. But then even if you talk about someone who goes, biohacking's full of crap, it's well, actually, that person who would be saying that would be counting his calories. Counting calories is a biohack. Like, there's no calorie counter system in the body. So counting your calories before you eat it is a biohack. Like, who invented the barcode who invented the nutritional values of the back on the packaging of food? Like, it's a biohack.
Okay.
All these things are biohacking. Biohacking when you're driving your car and you're looking for a shortcut, that's a hack. So it's about being adaptable, and it's built in our nature. So yeah.
No, yeah, good point. No, I like it. Yeah, that's cool. Given like lots of the things that we've already talked about, if I was going to focus on and understand the word wellness, and you talked about what was the word you used near the start of the podcast now? Wellgevity, I think you said.
Healthgevity.
Yeah, if we were going to think about that as the lens through which we look at our diet, our life, could you give us, because we're already at 53 minutes in this podcast, could you give us, let's say, maybe 3 to 5 low-hanging fruit? I want to be well for as long as is freaking possible. Like, what, in your opinion, are the tenets of that concept?
You said 3.
3 to 5.
Okay.
No pressure.
Okay, it would be getting outdoors and getting daylight. I'm not going to get specific with the times and whatnot, but how much you need to just get out and get some daylight. Do the best that you can. Obviously, more in the context of where you are is going to be good. But getting outside, especially in the morning, maybe not like as soon as the sun rises up, but getting outside in the morning is very important for your brain, especially. 2 would be getting some movement, whether it's just walking. Walking's great. Whether it's sprints every other week, added to that as well, that would be even better. You don't need to train in the gym under blue light. You can do well. You can even on staircase. You can run up the stairs. Like, be very just think of different things to do some movement activity. Make it fun.
Park in the furthest car parking space every time you drive somewhere.
Yeah, things like that. Make it fun.
Get some extra steps in. Yeah.
Make it fun. Get some friends involved. Make it social. That's great. Or even just get a dog. That'd be a great one, and that'd be a great one for your nervous system as well. 3, be looking at your light environment when you're indoors. So that's things like blocking artificial blue light at night, when you're indoors as well, around the computer, mobile phone, all these considerations. Number 4 would be ideally just to eat real food. Best would be seasonal. And number 5 is don't forget to enjoy life.
Cool. Speaking of which, then, Ryan, what do you do for that? What do you do for number 5 yourself?
That's I am so passionate about health and learning that for me, reading a book, going for a sauna, all these kind of things are built into my life and I enjoy them. Or just going for a walk, swimming, being in nature. Although it's kind of cliche thing to say, but just like being in nature, having freedom, having no stress over my head, that for me is enjoying life, and that's bliss. And doing the things that I want to do, like that is like for me, that's priceless.
I know you talked about at the start that like you were into the bodybuilding game at one point. Like, what does your training look like nowadays?
I train around 3 to 4 times per week. It'll be like a push-pull legs sort of split, and just whenever I turn in, I just do whatever I do. I walk quite a lot as well. I try to stick some intervals in there as well, some HIIT stuff, probably on like the creatine phosphate path, like really like 10 seconds explosive stuff, with a 2-minute rest. And then sometimes just like some Tabata intervals on like a row machine and whatnot. So that's my training really. But I used to be so anal about my training and so fixated with it, and it's so easy to get caught up into it. Like, I've got to go to the gym and going to the gym at like 5 a.m. to get it in before work, and like that's just that is long term. That is not good for your body. It's not good. So now I'm very happy with the way I look. I'm not chasing anything, and I celebrate each time I exercise as well. Like, I'm grateful to be doing that as well. And that's the same thing with food when you're eating. It's a celebration. You're able to to have food on your plate, and that's like some people don't even have that. And that's having gratitude, going back to digestion and stuff. Having saying grace and gratitude before your meal is very powerful as well. And I try to do that with my partner as well, with my partner Haley. Like, every time we cook and have dinner together, which is quite a lot, we say like a gratitude, and it's really powerful, and it's really underrated.
Yeah, that's very true. Where do moving forward from today, Ryan, where do people find the best way to interact with you? Where should people stay up to date with what you've got going on?
It will be, I'm developing my new website, which is levitae.com. I am active on Instagram, but I don't really respond to messages. So if you do want to reach out to me, it's best to email me. But you can find that on my website as well. But you can find it on my Instagram. So if you want to message me through my email on my website or on Instagram, via email, I mean. If you just want to see what I do, it's best to see me on Instagram. And that's it, really.
Amazing. And in terms of what's going on, we're at the beginning of 2020 right now. What does the year ahead look like for you? I know you said you're excited about finishing your most recent education, the degree, I think, 4 years. You're at the end of that 4th year, I think. Yeah,
diploma, yeah.
Diploma.
So that will finish in July, I believe. So I've got a few assignments, a little bit more training, but I'm ready to enter the real world of nutritional therapy. It's been long overdue. So once I've completed that, I will probably set up a place to work from in a clinic in London, which actually I found a great place yesterday. And then also I'll be taking it online as well, because we have the wonderful world of the internet, and it's best to take advantage of it. Use it, don't abuse it. So I can work remotely as well, and that'll be one of my goals to plan for the following year, is to take myself outside London and to be a bit more rural, ideally near the coast. So that will be the progression.
Hey, you've got a friend in Paul that you might be able to meet up with.
I'll be a bit further away from him. It'll probably be Cornwall.
Okay.
And then just traveling the world, and I've worked with tennis stars, and I've done training camps with them. So that, like, there's a great opportunity there to be traveling around the world with elite performers, or anyone who's living abroad, just to go out there and travel with them, because there's so much potential out there and opportunity.
Amazing. So my closing question for you, Ryan, today, very simple. Will human beings get to a point where we live forever?
No.
We'll watch that space, eh? I've got friends that think that there'll come a point where... Do you watch the TV program Altered Carbon?
No.
Give it a watch. Maybe one day Altered Carbon becomes reality.
Well, I think humans think they're more clever than the universe, which is our own downfall, because we don't understand anything, and we're really a drop in the universe. Like we're a little floating thing in the universe, and we don't really understand it.
The more you know, the more you realise you don't know.
100%. That is so true.
Ryan, we're going to wrap it up there today. It's been an unbelievable pleasure to chat to you. Not at all what I expected, I've got to say, in an amazingly good way. So thank you so very, very much for being on the show.
Thank you, Dan.
If there's not an opportunity for round 2 at some point in the future, I'll be very surprised. So we'll catch up with you soon. Ryan, thanks very much.
Thank you.